Hey, Flimsy Lunch Tray here, and welcome to our Saturday edition video. Not our typical upgrade and commander build video, as I've been a bit busy and was away for a work conference. So I've recorded this video a week out, and we are just going to highlight the Georgia today. It's a Tier 9 premium American battleship, and this was one of the earlier American battleships I picked up and that I just enjoyed so much. I picked up the Massachusetts first, and when I learned, basically the Georgia has the same secondaries as Massachusetts, and the fact it has the larger guns, along with that sweet engine boost, I couldn't really resist and picked it up for coal, I believe it was. It was available up until, I think, 10.1 when they removed her, but she'll likely come back for sale periodically. I can't remember if they actually had Georgia for sale during the Black Friday sale. I know they did with Massachusetts, but it'll be likely to pick up the ship from time to time for doubloons, because as soon as Wargaming pulled her from the armory for coal, they immediately turned around and sold her for doubloons. So for a short, limited time offer. So that was rather ironic. So the Georgia, I have not featured a Georgia in a really long time on the channel, and she is just a superb battleship, and I'm going to be showing you two ranked matches today here in World of Warships with the Georgia, and just why I enjoy and love this ship so much. So let's talk about her in comparison to some of the other American battleships at Tier 8, 9, and 10. So kind of made that comparison with the Massachusetts. You can think of Georgia as Massachusetts' big brother, and then you can think of the Ohio as Georgia's bigger brother, just because of how unique these ships are. So same secondaries as the Massachusetts that you find on the Georgia and also on the Ohio. Basically, extended range, better accuracy, yeah, along those lines. So they're just really good 127 millimeter secondary guns. The Georgia, in comparison to, let's say, the Tech Tree, the Iowa, so the Sigma that the Georgia has is 1.8, but she has a pretty tight maximum horizontal dispersion and maximum vertical dispersion, but it's at 1.8. Where on the Iowa, you have a 1.9 Sigma, and then the Iowa has worse maximum and worse vertical dispersion. So there's kind of like a little bit of a caveat there, except you have these 457 millimeter guns on the Iowa that just hit really hard. And Sigma is just the chances of your shells landing in the center area of where you're aiming, as we slap this Alaska coming out here. So the enemy team's pushing very strongly on this flank, so I'm setting up into this kiting position, and we're making good use of our secondaries already here in supporting our Fletcher here. So I've been playing Ohio a lot even as well, and it feels similar to me. But what really sets the Georgia apart from something like the Iowa, the Massachusetts, is the fact that she has this engine boost. So that was kind of like the gimmick Wargaming put with Georgia. She doesn't have the best armor in the world, as she can be a little more easily citadeled than what you might believe. But if you angle her properly, she can hold her own really well in these situations. So the Georgia was essentially a high-speed battleship project, which was to precede the Iowa class ships, where you have these 457 millimeter guns instead of what the Iowa has, 406 millimeter guns. But these 457 millimeter guns were basically in these twin turrets. So we have total 6 guns here on the Georgia, and the project of the ship, which was like 1938, I think it was. So Georgia has a lot of good things going on. Of course, only having 6 guns really hurts when you miss those salvos, but I'm running the reload main battery modification 3, I believe it is, in slot 6, so I get a faster reload and not opting to go for that better accuracy. So here I'm just moving up a little bit. We have this enemy Izumo, and he's pushing into our secondary range, so I have no need to turn around and engage with him. I've been playing Izumo in ranked lately, and I can say right now that of all tier 9 battleships, I hate the Izumo. Getting the maneuverability upgrade helps with that rudder shift time, so that's made it a bit nicer. But I hate the Izumo. So I'm just going to sit here and take advantage of this Izumo, pushing into our secondaries, letting our secondaries work over. As you can see, we're stacking on the secondary hits here. Originally, the Georgia had the second highest per shell AP alpha damage of any battleship in the game. Now I think she's like 5th. So you have, let's see, Satsuma, you have Yamato, you have the Incomparable, Musashi, and then Ohio has the same high AP shell alpha damage, which is 15,750. So these 18-inch shell guns hurt and slap very hard on broadside cruisers and battleships, and you're going to see more of these guns causing maximum damage here. Like I was talking about, her dispersion, even though it's 1.8, she has really good dispersion for a battleship. You know, these guns that reload, I think we can get down to, let me look here, I think we're rocking around, yeah, 21, because Adrenaline Rush also kicking in here. 21 seconds. So I think without Adrenaline Rush, it's like maybe closer to 23. And so they're really nice. Your speed, when you max out the engine boost, your mic flag, and let's say you even decided to take brisk, I think you can break over 40 knots, but without brisk, you're underneath 40 knots, I think, all said and done. So that is quite nice. Or maybe you just barely break 40 knots with zero mic flag. I'm not entirely sure. You have a good AA suite. The repair party is that 40-second cooldown on the repair party, so it's very similar to the Massachusetts in that guard. And now, the buff that they just did on the Kansas, Minnesota, and Vermont. That also now get a 40-second cooldown time on the repair party. Here I'm laughing a little bit with the 2 Citadels. The Izumo, because he's very flustered with that situation that he got himself into. So naturally, name calling is the way you resolve such things. So it's kind of interesting. I usually don't respond too much, but I was really interested trying to figure out his thoughts, why he was thinking such things. So now we're up to 160,000 damage and doing well, but now we need to turn back in and support our team. We sat there as long as we could. If I would have turned out like I am now in front of Izumo while he was sitting there, I most likely would have eaten Citadels from those 410mm guns. So that wasn't worth the risk, so we were just going to wait. And with our engine boost, we can quickly re-engage the enemy and moving back up here and being able to help support our team. Some of the cons with the Georgia, of course, as we talked about, she only has these 6 guns. Her main battery DPM is among the lowest of Tier 9 battleships. I'm referencing the Wiles Wiki article on some of these things here. Her main battery range, you can take spotter plane, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, because you don't have this insane main battery range. I mean, of course, it's better than the Massachusetts. I think Massachusetts is like 18.1, but I'm trying to remember what the maximum main battery range is with these guns. Yeah, 20.4. So I think you can take spotter plane. I'm trying to check if that is indeed the case. Not finding it here. You have the same armor profile as the Iowa. So you are invulnerable to the HE spam. Georgia, she doesn't have great torpedo protection, and she has a larger turning radius because of the length of the ship and with engine boost. So I think that was a way of Wargaming trying to counteract some of the strengths that Georgia has as they try to make a ship that's, you know, not dominating in every single area, you know, speed, guns, secondaries, you know, all these things that I think Wargaming tries to keep into account. So they're trying to balance it. So you definitely are not very maneuverable in terms of the rudder shift time and your turning circle radius, but the engine boost really kind of helps drift you side to side. So you can even use that like I did here, and dodging that salvo from the Sovietsky Soyuz. So that worked out quite nice. So it's a 3 versus 4 situation, so I'll kind of stop talking about the ship and more about the battle situation here. So we're behind on points by 200. Enemy team is ticking up. Our Tulsa did an amazing job this battle. So really pay attention on the minimap, how he handles the Prince Rupert pushing into him, the tier 9 German battle cruiser, because he does that so well. Here as we citadel the Svetsky Soyuz again, he doesn't like us. He does really well in handling the Prince Rupert, so hats off to that Tulsa player. Complimented after the battle, he did really good. So pushing in here, we have this Fletcher here. He's still roughly right there, so I am going to be taking that shot. I'm going to set my secondaries on Prince Rupert here. Get my rear turret in here. I'm trying to help the Tulsa player out because I don't want to just leave him hang high and dry. But I also have this Fletcher here that would like to try to finish off here as he keeps going dark. So again, we'll reset secondaries to the Prince Ruperts. So kind of a balancing act happening here. So we're going to get that off. Secondaries are going to start going. So this Tulsa is doing really well and just playing around the island as he should. A lot of cruiser players in this situation can just panic and they just run away from the island. The island is what's your saving grace in this situation. So for him, just playing Ring Around the Rosie, this island is huge. So I can't compliment this Tulsa player enough. If you find yourself in this type of situation, don't just run away from the island, but utilize the island to continue to keep up your defense here. So pushing out here, letting our secondaries get in here on the Prince Rupert. Also having to pay attention because of the Fletcher torpedoes. So we're going to activate our repair party and then our damage control party because we are going to take a lot of torpedoes here from the Fletcher. So I was trying to speed jukes and make sure that fake out the Fletcher. I am concerned about where this Sovietsky Soyuz is. He looks like he's circling down through C. So I'm going to go ahead and pop spotter plane. Maybe I'll even catch the Fletcher with my spotter plane. But our Fletcher is really low on health. And so he's not going to make that fight, even though the enemy Fletcher is also really low. So he did all he could. He was being really nice. He laid down smoke for me, but the main smoke firing penalty of this main battery is huge. So it's not a whole lot he could do there. So I switched over to HE. Running Halsey on Georgia means that the shell switch time is really short. And I'm trying to find out where this Fletcher is because I definitely want to make sure to get him. We're over 214,000 damage now. And the Sovietsky Soyuz contributed a lot to that damage, as you'll see in the post-battle results. So we get detected. Here is the Fletcher. So we're going to wait a little bit longer to get out behind the island. The Tulsa takes the Sovietsky Soyuz down, and with our dispersion, we're able to finish off the enemy Fletcher. So this was a lot of fun. I love playing Georgia in ranked. I'll talk a little bit more about how I like playing her, and you'll see in the second battle as I talk a little bit more about the play style with the ship. But 216,000 damage, 5 citadels, 266 secondary hits, 8 set on fire. So we didn't fire HE a lot, so our secondaries are able to effectively put a lot of damage out and set those fires. 22,200 base XP, and Tulsa did really good for 1,800. I definitely complimented him at the end of this battle. Azumo 50,000, and then you look over to Svetsky Soyuz, 91,000, and Alaska 46,000. So with these 18-inch guns, you can really punish a broadside on these cruisers, these battle cruisers, these battleships really easily. So we're going to drop down into the next match now. So working on my positioning here, trying to figure out how I want to place myself here and being able to support the team as we were chatting back and forth a little bit. One of the things I like to try to keep in mind is, how is the enemy team setting up, and then how can I best support my team and be an effective player. I don't want to just simply follow all my teammates over to A, because if all the battleships go to A, there's not going to be any of these cross-map fire opportunities. So you don't want to just follow the herd as a battleship with all your other battleships. You want to be able to set yourself up in different places in the map. That's really effective, where you can catch out the side of a battleship. So here you can see I'm waiting for these Prince Rupert to get into range. So he just slid into range there. as I have a fighter, so I don't know if I had fighter from Convoy, but I really have to check if you get spotter plane or not on Georgia. I can't remember for the life of me right now. But there's a Citadel. So that's what I'm talking about. When you, even in your team's like, hey, let's just all group up and go together. Let's lemming train one direction. I don't always like doing that because your team might stall out and not commit to the push. But having these cross map fire opportunities means we can get some nice damage in. So both the Prince Ruperts are going that way. They have good torpedoes. They have good secondaries, so that's something we really have to keep in mind. And you'll see how I engage both of them later on in this match in a 1 versus 2. We had the Johann DeWitt who set us on fire here. I'm really nervous here because of my allied destroyer in the Benson. He's not out in front, and I'm trying to figure out, is he going to commit to moving up this 7-8 line or not? So that makes it really challenging here because I'm trying to figure out what he's going to do, because then I can play off of that. I don't want to just simply yellow in to a destroyer who may launch a lot of torpedoes. And this map on the 7-8 line, it tends to be a lot of destroyers will be throwing torpedoes in to the left and right of where I'm aiming right now. So I just have to wait a little bit, see how the enemy team's setting up. With the Tirpitz being tier 8, we can definitely do a lot of damage with our 457mm guns, as well as on the Johann DeWitt, and you're going to see what that looks like here in a little bit as we turn to avoid that salvo. So enemy team is committing through their push through A. I'm looking at the Benson. He's just leaving, so it's like, how do we want to set up here? And then our Tirpitz player he's actually going to push in, and we catch out the Kagero here. So it's at secondaries, but he's just outside secondary range. But I'm going to push back in. I want to support my Tirpitz player because now I know there's no risk of a destroyer being up on the 7-8-9 line since the Benson's engaging the Kagero. So I'm going to turn back around and help him. So that just having that information is so helpful because I didn't feel comfortable committing to push. You know, Kagero could just sit around an island, step out, dump a lot of torpedoes into you, and Georgia, she doesn't have the really great torpedo protection. It's a bit poor. So even though the Kagero is tier 8, those torpedoes definitely hurt because that's what that line revolves around. So again, even though I would say I'm a bit out of position right now, with our engine boost, we're able to push right back in and being able to help support our team. You can see on the minimap, our Osterland caught himself out on the 1 line. So that's not going to be good for him. And then with the Rupert in the Z46. And now it's a bit late for even our Rune to try to get away because Rune does really well at kiting, but he's a bit too close. But his team just fell apart on him on that flank, so there's not a whole lot he could do there. Here you can see example with the 6 guns. None of our shells landed on the Johann DeWitt, so you do notice it. It kind of hurts when you do miss on those salvos, but we're going to keep throwing shells his way because he drops those airstrike attacks. So I want to help support our Tirpitz out, and so that's why I'm still trying to get up here and being able to support him. But then I'm going to be faced with another issue here. So our Benson, he looks like he's actually going to move up this way in helping support our Tirpitz player. But because of the other flank collapsed, I'm expecting our Osterland to die any moment. And I'm not sure how the Rune is going to be able to hold up because he's in a really tough spot. You see me looking over, being very mindful of him. I'm probably actually going to have to turn back through sea and deal with both of those 2 German battleships. But I'm trying to hang around here as long as possible to help my Tirpitz player out. I don't want to just leave him alone unless we get some really good damage in here on maybe the Johann DeWitt before disengaging and maybe even Tirpitz. And there's the Citadel. So even with these 457mm guns, we can punch through the deck armor of the Johann DeWitt and strike his Citadel. So he's really low now. He should be going out of style here shortly. And we're going to use our rear turret here on the Tirpitz because Tirpitz is broadside to us. So if these shells land, pick up the Johann DeWitt there, we may be able to get a little bit of good damage in here. So unfortunately our Rune does go down, but it was very tough hand he was dealt with. So now I'm going to push back this way. I don't want to just simply run up and to cap the Bravo, because then it just leaves our backsides wide open. But I'm going to move down and deal with these 2 German battleships. So still trying to do some parting shots here. Being mindful, checking, see if there's any incoming fire from either the Ruperts. So how do you deal with 2 Ruperts in this situation? The same way I deal with Pomerans in this type of situation. In ranked, you can do really well with Georgia, but kind of the trump card against you is something like a Pomeran. It is something now like these Prince Ruperts, so this newer German battleship, battle cruiser line. Because their trump card is when they get in close, they dump torpedoes and kill you. So basically, when you're handling these secondary German battleships with these torpedoes, you do not want to push in close to them. You want to keep them at arm's length, arm's distance. So one of the things I'm working on doing here, so my secondaries are 11.3. I'm going to work on only keeping 1 Rupert in my secondary battery range. In the sense that I'm trying to keep the second Rupert, who's farther behind, I'm trying to keep him stay out of his secondary range. So I'm only taking the secondaries from 1 battleship at a time. The other thing that is really helpful as our Tirpitz takes out the enemy Tirpitz is if you get in front of the bow of an enemy battleship, their secondaries won't fire, because often the secondaries on your battleship, especially your brawling battleships, they're along the sides, both sides. You don't really have any secondaries that sit the front center of the superstructure or the rear center of the superstructure. So you'll notice that you can often decrease how much damage you're taking. So notice this break we have in secondary damage coming in on us right now, and now they're resuming, is because he was turning bow in. So if we stay more in front of his bow as he kind of fishtails back and forth, we can mitigate what damage we take. So even if you're yellowing an enemy battleship as a destroyer, if you stay in front of his bow like that, you'll have a breach or gunboating within secondary range of enemy battleship. You can just stay outside of that, most of the majority of those secondary guns, just by staying in the bow on, as an example. So the Rupert is going to make a mistake here. He's going to go broadside. He's had enough, and we're going to clap him for a Citadel. So just 1 Citadel, 1 penetration is all we need. And now I'm going to slow down. We're going to cut the throttle, and we're going to engage with the next Prince Rupert, who's about to come into my secondary battery range. He's going to be showing us a lot of side here. So we're going to see what we can do about that. And you're going to see a comment later on in the game about one of the weaknesses of the ship, and I'll comment on that as well here in a minute. Not to Georgia, but for the Prince Rupert. So we're slowing down. We're just trying to stay slightly ahead. One of the things I'm concerned about is the Prince Rupert's torpedoes. Off the top of my head, I don't know the range of the torpedoes, but I know they put some other Tier 9 destroyers to shame for the range those torpedoes have. And with our 40-second cooldown on the repair party, it really helps us to be able to stick in here and extend the fight. So here he is pulling out, showing broadside to me. He showed broadside once, and now he's showing broadside again. And we're going to get another Citadel with several pins and bring him down to almost non-existent health. So when you are kiting battleship in this situation, you are the one who's able to hold the keys in your hands as you're in control of the situation here. Because if I were just to push in, they would just dump a bunch of torpedoes. Even if I killed one, I have a second one to deal with, and he can just dump his torpedoes into me. Because you don't have the greatest maneuverability, and you have a poor turning circle radius. So now, maybe they've dumped some torpedoes. Instead of me just turning off around to the right, I'm going to go ahead and turn around off to the left. So I can avoid, because I'm unsure what that torpedo range is, and I don't want to eat torpedoes in this situation. And we're going to go ahead and pop a repair party as we go to help hunt down this last enemy destroyer, and we switch to high explosive. So that's one of the things that's really helpful in these situations. You know, once now we're going to be focusing on destroyers, it's time to switch to the high explosive. So he comments on the weakness of the ship here in chat. that the ship is soft. That is definitely true. It's a battle cruiser. It's not going to be something like the more tankier German battleships, like the Bismarck up to Grosse Kurfürst. It's not going to be like your Russian battleships. If the Prince Rupert was really had this really strong tanky armor, like the ship would just be overpowered. I mean, the Prince Rupert does really good in ranked already. If you made this ship even stronger with the armor, it would just be simply overpowered. But I'm having a little bit of fun and just kind of teasing. He's like pointing out, it's like, well, I mean, your ship is definitely soft when you show broadside, and I'm able to citadel you, basically. So when I'm in that type of situation, if that enemy battleship player wants to disengage, he has to slow down or make the fatal mistake in turning out. So we were able to keep the cards in our hands that entire match, even when you're thinking, oh, 2 Prince Ruperts, there's no way. Well, there's different things we could do to be able to control the outcome of the battle in that situation, and you get to see us do that in action. So overall, I think Georgia is a fantastic battleship. One of the playstyles she also does really well at, that I've been meaning to get around to, is kind of like the Bourgogne in the sense with her engine boost, is that you can just kind of a shock and awe surprise the enemy, and just moving up a flank and collapsing a flank. That's one of the things I really like doing with Georgia when I have the opportunity to do so, because you put the enemy team on their back foot, and I feel like the player base doesn't know how to handle the more brawling meta that we used to have back in the day in World of Warships, and then I kind of got nerfed in 10.0 with the commander rework, and made more passive sniping meta here in World of Warships. So you can run into players who don't really know how to handle players who are aggressive and brawling in these type of situations. So Georgia plays that really well, and being able to collapse flanks and pushing in. So over 136,000 damage, 4 citadels, 3 destroyed. Not as many secondary hits this time around. 1,700 base experience. Our Tirpitz teammate did really well, with over 2,100 base XP, so hats off to him, and for the Benson, sticking in there as well. Here you can see both the damage we did to both the Prince Ruperts and killed. We did a lot of damage to them. We also kind of hold a trump card that we have a larger health pool than both of them, so that helps us in the long term as well. And then what it looks like with premium count with the end of the battle results and a premium ship. So that helps the credit rewards earnings even more. So yeah, so that's going to be our Saturday video today. So I hope you appreciated this Georgia highlight. If she does come back available for sale again, I do recommend picking her up if you like the brawling, if you like the Massachusetts, if you have the Ohio even. Georgia fits really well with these ships, in my opinion, because they're just a lot of fun. Georgia's just a lot of fun to play in ranked when you're not facing tier 10s. So I do need to make mention that if you would like to support the channel, please consider subscribing. When we reach 1,000 subscribers, we'll be doing a 1,000 subscriber giveaway. We'll be giving away the USS Kid, 30 days of premium, and 3 different prizes of doubloons. So please consider supporting the channel if you would like to help grow the community here as I pump out these videos, and particularly the upgrading commander build videos, and giving you my thoughts on that. So that's been a very good success for the channel. So all said and done, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.